Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my first interview here on the Art of Female Muscle podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Remo, aka Femme Physique Fan, and for my very first guest, I'm delighted to have IFBB Women's Physique Pro Tracy Jones, just coming off a very impressive top three placing at the class show not too long ago. Thank you very much, Tracy. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. Now, from what the research that I was able to do on you, all your life, you pretty much had an athletic background.
Yeah,
And
one sport or another. I've been in pursuit of the next thing that would demand more of me. I guess would be the best way to put it.
so a desire to push yourself further and further beyond the level that you're currently at.
Yeah.
And then you got into CrossFit. When did that start?
Oh my gosh.
Or was it really that long ago?
Yeah, probably 15 years ago, I would say.
Okay.
You know, there's and I used to compete a little bit with CrossFit, but the things that I was the best at were the strength events.
That was the thing that was interesting, is that just hearing that the thing that got you into all things powerlifting was CrossFit.
Yes,
Most people would look at that and they wouldn't draw the connection between the two of them. But
there was
so
a
how does
back
that come
room.
out?
There was a back room that was kind of just an empty room that there were no lights. The only lights in the room were a door, and if you plugged in a lamp without a shade. And I remember there was a guy back there who was just deadlifting and squatting and benching, and he was just stupid strong. And I was like, whatever you're doing, I want in, like whatever this is, whatever this sport is, I want in. And he introduced me to my first powerlifting coach, and that was it for me. Once I started to get strong and realized I could do this and learn about the sport, I was in it for, that was it for me.
Hmm.
I just fell in
Now,
love.
now I saw that on some. What are some of your records? Because you have several powerlifting records.
Not all time world records, but I'm on the all time lists of like the top all time lists in across all federations, and I think three different weight classes if I'm not mistaken. So I've squatted and deadlifted in the 500s, and I think my best bench was around 275 or something like that with a torn shoulder. So
Oh my God. Oh my. So even through injuries, you're going and doing
yeah,
this.
but
Okay.
I didn't
But
have the genetics for powerlifting. I just really loved the sport and was too stubborn to to quit. But I did not have the genetics for powerlifting whatsoever.
so now, explain how you went from, or you started looking at bodybuilding. What were some of the things? Were there any individuals that you looked up to? Were there people that you saw their physique and said,
You're
"I want
gonna
to be
laugh.
like that"?
You're
Or
gonna laugh, but the only bodybuilder that I ever liked was Branch Warren for a long time, just because um, he made me feel seen with just the passion that he had for training. Whether you agree with his training style, whatever, it was just the passion that he had for training. It struck a chord in me, and I just felt seen in a way that I never felt before. And it was like, okay, this is all right. The passion that I feel for training, as because I was an incredibly intense power lifter, like very intense power lifter. But Branch made me feel like it was okay to love something that much that made no sense to anyone else. But Lee Priest was the first bodybuilder that I just loved for just pure aesthetics. I mean, I
hmm,
love Lee
okay.
Priest and Linda Murray. Like, there are so many now, but Branch was the first one that I just felt like I connected with the passion that he had for training, and he didn't care whether you liked the way he did things or not. He just did it regardless. And to this day, Branch is probably the only one that I would geek out to meet, to meet just because of that. I don't think that he will ever know what he did for a generation of people who just love to train hard and intense.
Hmm, okay. So what was it that actually caused you to decide to make the jump from powerlifting to bodybuilding?
I decided I was going to retire from powerlifting in 2020, I believe. And And I thought, if I'm ever going to, to bodybuild while I have some mass, still on me, let's go. Because I'd been told by other people along the way, you're not made for bodybuilding, you could never do this, but it was people who were benefiting by me staying in the particular sport that I was in.
Oh, well, sure, they're going to say that.
Yeah. So I never really thought much about it, but after I retired, I thought, let's just see. Let's do a show with no expectations. Like I said, I'd never been to a show. I knew nothing about the show when I first started working with Rachel Daniels, and she said, let's see your mandatories. I was like, what's a mandatory? I knew nothing about the sport. And I think that was enough to get me hooked because of the insane challenge that this was for me. And once I was in, that was it for me. Once I realized that I could do this, not even thinking about the end goal, but once I realized that I could do this, I could figure this out by myself. So that was it for me.
So now, out of all of the women's divisions, why specifically women's physique? Why not something like women's bodybuilding?
It's really, I think it's what you're drawn to more than anything. To me, I love the conditioning. To me, it's like the perfect balance of size and conditioning. And it's just, to me, I love women's bodybuilding. I'm actually a big fan of women's bodybuilding. But for me, the size that I would have to put on, I would not be comfortable living life. It's just not for me. It's not something that I'm excited about, if that makes sense. Like with women's physique, I'm really excited to make the changes. I'm really excited to keep working and moving forward. I just love the division. But I am incredibly passionate about the women's bodybuilding division as well. It's just not for me. It really isn't. And sometimes I do think that some people take it to a place that I'm not comfortable with.
I can see that.
I think everyone you have to have your line, where you're willing to go, what you're willing to do. And for me, it's just, I'm not willing to put the size on.
So that was going to be my next question, is that, let's say along the way, you finally get the word from either a major judge or one of the top bodybuilders out there that you need to make the switch.
I would downsize.
In order to say, you would downsize? So you would downsize to stay in women's physique?
Absolutely downsize, yeah. Yeah.
Because like a lot of times when I hear that question asked, it's like, I'm not sure, or they would just simply say, oh, absolutely, because they don't want to lose the mass. But sometimes you'll hear that. I mean, and like you said, everybody has a line. And if that's not a line that you want to cross, then by all means don't.
What is comfortable in your day-to-day life here. Where I live, it's a very different world than where a lot of the other girls live. Here in Eastern Kentucky, it's hard being a bigger girl here. And it draws a lot of attention to my children, and I have to really be careful how I allow this to affect them and impact their lives, because they're living in a unique experience, with a professional bodybuilder, picking them up from school and, walking through festivals and being stopped and touched by people and, answering questions. And I have to be very careful about what I do and how I allow that to impact my children, because our situation is not everyone else's. So it's just not for me, I don't think.
Yeah. What have you
the division?
What have you found to be the reaction from most people? Do you find it to be an even mix of positive and negative, more positive than negative? Or because I hear some people, it's like they'll, especially online, I mean, the negativity that happens there, but also in real life, you'll have other people who like come up to you and say, hey, I think you're amazing. I think you look fantastic. There's been just as many other people come back with all the "you look like a man" crap and such like
Right.
that. What has it been like for you?
I
Been an
think for
even
a lot
mix,
of
or
years, especially during my powerlifting years, um, when I was a little bulkier, during those years, and there weren't really any muscular females in the area but me. I would go places, and everywhere I would go, I would know, if I left from the gym and I was wearing something, sleeveless or shorts or something, I would know that someone was going to say something to me. And I've had mothers allow their sons to make fun of me. I've had people stop me in grocery stores, everything that you can imagine. But
Mhm.
as the last few years have gone by, you're starting to see a shift in even areas like this, and I'm seeing more women in the strength training sections of the gym, more women wanting to get strong and compete, and it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, I think, in this area. So you still get your negativity, you still get people who randomly will come up and touch you out of nowhere and just squeeze your arms, or it's the strangest the strangest things. But you can't let any of that move you either way, whether it's positive feedback or negative. You really can't allow that to move you either way. So I do have to understand, though, that if you're doing something that's a niche sport, you have to understand that you're going to get the good and the bad.
Right, exactly.
This is not normal. Let's be
Right.
honest. This is
It,
not.
it's extreme. It's
Yeah,
an
so you
extreme
can't be
lifestyle.
offended every time someone doesn't
Right.
like what you do. I try to be, to be kind and understanding and just let it go. But things definitely are changing, and my community has been incredibly supportive. Actually, with the since I started bodybuilding, my entire community has been doing whatever they need to do to support me, and whether they have any understanding of the sport or not. And I think that's really precious. But
Well, that's wonderful that you have a support base like that that is able to help you and encourage you in your
yeah,
bodybuilding, because not a lot of people have that. And so it's always nice to hear somebody who's got a support base like that. As far as your training in the gym goes, what are some of your what's your favorite body part to train? What's your least favorite?
well, I know you can probably guess what my favorite body part to train is. I would train legs every day if I could. Like, but I'm old school. I love hard training. I love barbell movements. That's something I do have to kind of pull back from a little bit, as we're finessing and, staying in my division, as, but I'm actually learning to love upper body and back in general. I'm really loving back training now too, because it's required more finesse for me. I was not one of those people who connected with back easily. It didn't come easy for me, that connection with it. So I think the more that I have had to wrestle with it and figure things out, the more I've loved.
Hmm.
I love the difficulty. I
Okay.
think that's why I always loved legs, because legs are the hardest. They require the most from you. You don't, if you see someone with good legs, they have a great pain tolerance. They know how to suffer. Like,
Hmm.
that's it for me. I love it. I was always a big deadlifter. Um, that was probably my specialty. I was a deadlift specialist, I would say. And deadlift and barbell squatting that was the base of my leg and glute training. I did very little glute isolation work at all.
Hmm. Now I know I also saw from your background. Now you also are a coach yourself.
Mhm.
All right, correct. And it was, but you made an interesting observation in some of the other interviews I heard, is the whole certification bit. Get it, all the different certifications that there was something that you saw in there that wasn't being met. That you said that you had a problem with because it was like it assumes that everybody is starting from a position of general health
Yes.
rather than can you flesh that out for other people as to what the
Well,
issue
even
is?
even when I went to college for sports medicine and athletic training before I started getting into your certifications and all the other things to follow. But everything that they teach is for a perfectly healthy person. A person has no restrictions, no previous injuries, no ailments of any kind. And I think that it sets people up for failure because they don't know how to treat the average person, because seeing someone who has no issues at all is like a unicorn. That's not who you're going to see. That's not who you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I do think that working with seniors was probably the best thing that ever happened to me as a coach, because if you can work with a senior, you can work with anyone. If you can modify and make things happen for a senior, it really puts things into perspective. A lot of people know how to modify to make things more difficult, but can you strip a movement down to its most base fundamental level for someone who's chair bound? That's what impresses me more than anything. And I think we're failing with these certifications, especially the ones that you get online over a weekend. You're turning someone loose that has no understanding of how to deal with someone who has severe spinal fusion or, hip replacement,
It's surprising to hear that, because it's like you would expect, especially we're in an obesity epidemic in this country. So it's like most people, they don't start from a position of general health. They're trying to get themselves to a point of general health. So it's really amazing to hear that they start on a baseline that's just not realistic for the majority of people.
What happened is I started getting people who had went to physical therapy, and they still were not where they needed to be to get back to normal life. They were discharged because they checked all the boxes, but there was still a huge gap from where they are and where they need to be. And there was no one that they could find in our area to get them from A to B. So that's where my business, I never dreamed that it would go in that direction, but I really have a heart for people like that. People who just want to get back to work, or, want to be able to live independently, or want to get back to the sport that they love, but they don't know who to go to help get transition back to activity.
Wow. It's just amazing to hear that. It's like you would think the opposite would be true. So, but anyway, now when you made the switch from, I've always wondered this for people who go from powerlifting to bodybuilding, was there anything about the bodybuilding lifestyle that surprised you? That was part of the lifestyle that you did not expect, or that you did not see coming?
That I would have to fundamentally change the way I train. I had always trained from a place of heavy intensity and rage. I was super, super intense. And I really had to start training from a very peaceful place, a very intuitive, intellectual place. I had to really start thinking differently about training, and had to relearn to train all over again. And that was the best thing about the first experience. But it was also, the peaking process was very unique, unique for me, learning to go through that process and juggle so many different bowls, because I don't think people really understand, when you're peaking, you are posing, you're training, you're doing cardio, you're doing your diet, you're doing all of these little things at one time that you can't let anything slip. So I really think it made me a master of time management. So that was something I really, really enjoyed and benefited from. But the culture of bodybuilding, the thing that really shocked me was just how much people cared about your social media. More it seemed than what you look like, your physique, or even how you placed.
When you say people more concerned, do you mean other bodybuilders, or the fan base, or people in general, or what?
Everyone. Everyone. And it was very strange to me that people cared more about the production quality of your training video than what you were doing. It's just, which I get it. It's just a different sport. You have a fan base, you have personas, you have characters, you have, I get all of that, but that was I'm an odd bodybuilder, because that was just not me. It just didn't feel authentic to me. Most of my best training sessions, I will never film, regardless, just because it's too intimate to me. It's distracting to me. So that was a very strange thing to me, to see people to stop and be like, to pull themselves out of where they needed to be mentally. And like, I got to set up my camera to film this. And I was just like mind boggling to me, but that's just because I'm a country mouse, I guess. Just really foreign to the sport, but I just was not prepared for the social media aspect of it. And how
And I can see that, because I guess in powerlifting the concern is whether or not can you do the lift,
yeah,
not how do you look when you
absolutely.
do it, because the bodybuilding is all about the look. I mean, you're training to achieve a look. You're being judged on stage according to a look. You advance depending on how what your look is like. So there, I can see that there's so much difference there between the more concentrating on how you're lifting versus how you're looking.
Yeah, I think that is also the difference between being an amateur and a professional. You know, that's part of being a professional bodybuilder. You know, this is the sport. This is what you sign up for. And I think where everything happened so quickly for me, it was just a big culture shock, because this was not my world at
Hmm.
all, at all. And, you know, out of nowhere, I had people messaging me for autographed prints and things like that. And I was like, I've never done a photo shoot. I have nothing for you. This is not my world. So it was very much culture shock for me. But I think that is more from just being from where I'm from, you know, a place in the middle of nowhere that no one, you know, most people have never heard of before. And a lot of that was just culture shock for me. And I am learning quickly.
I was going to ask about now I understand that you have two kids.
Yeah.
Is that correct? What have they thought of mom being a bodybuilder? Are they just not know what to think, or?
My oldest is 19, and he has Asperger's and goes to college from home. So he's a super genius. He's
Hmm.
amazing. So none of this means anything to him, which is great. So it means nothing to him, you know. And my daughter is, she's in ninth grade. She's started high school. And I think that I've tried to be as open and honest with her through this process as possible, because she's very driven. She has my drive and my passion, but just in different, you know, different arenas. But I've tried to be very transparent through this process. Same as on social media. You know, I've tried to be very transparent about everything, just because I know that some people aren't, most people aren't. And I wanted her to know really what happens behind the scenes, the cost of a dream, whatever your dream is. You know, we tell our kids, you know, I've said it before, but you tell them you can do anything, you can be anything, you can have anything, but we leave out the distance between A and B and what it actually costs you. So I really wanted my daughter to see all of the things, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Hmm.
the mistakes, the failures. I wanted her to see, so that she understands that when you say that you want something, this is what that means behind that. So for her, this has been a really interesting experience. And I've actually been trying to talk to her about that and make sure that, you know, she's good with all of it and
Okay.
on board.
Has she given any inclination of following in mom's footsteps,
Zip.
or none?
Mhm.
Okay.
None. I'm the only the only one. And I honestly think it's because that she lives in a home with me and sees it, you know what I mean? Because maybe if I'd seen all the things before, maybe I would have, you know, thought about it differently when I was her age. But I think ignorance is bliss sometimes when you don't know. But no, she's not. But she has that competitive drive. She is amazing. She's travels with the academic team and does musicals and all kinds. She's an artistic genius. So my kids
Great.
are nothing like me, which is good.
Okay. So I've got your competitive history here, so far as I know, and basically it's three shows. It's the national qualifier, it's the one where you won your pro card, and the one that you just were at. So, so tell me what it was like when you were there at the Kentucky Cup, where you won and you guys, from what I see, got your national qualification. Your very first show ever. What was it like backstage?
Just holy terror, because I did not know. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I didn't know what events came first. You know, all the things that, like I said, when you've been competing for a while, you know these things. I knew nothing. So it was just, when I tell you I was shocked to win, I genuinely was shocked to win, because I didn't go in with any knowledge of what the judges were looking for. I was so new to the sport, and I just wanted to do my best. I wanted to come up, show up and do my best and not embarrass myself the first one. But I loved the process so much. It really wasn't about the stage for me. I loved what it took to get there. And I loved meeting other women who had an understanding. It's almost like an intimate understanding of something that only a few people will ever know, their experience, because everyone who steps on stage has a story. That was the thing that really drew me. My first show, there was a woman that I competed against who had a stroke. And the doctors had said that she would never be able to do this. And to share the stage with someone like that, like, this was an experience of a lifetime. That's something I'll never forget. Just the kindness of people like the Fabodes, who didn't know me from Adam, but helped me backstage with knowing, like, I knew nothing. I went alone, Hey, you should probably pump up right now. Hey, you should probably go get glazed, those things. So it was such a surreal experience. And then 6 weeks later, I flew to South Carolina utterly alone, all by myself, and did Junior USAs and left with lifelong friends. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. Sandy was the judge, so I was fortunate to have a judge of her caliber at, my second show to get feedback from. I mean, and to be able to stand in front of, that was a privilege, really.
I bet. I mean, to have one of the very best judges there judging you at the show. After your shows, both in Kentucky and Junior USA, did you have anything of what's commonly known today as post-show blues?
Absolutely.
Did you experience like the downside? And can you describe for people, because this is something I've covered in a roundtable discussion here, and it's something that I don't think gets talked about very much, which is the surprise, because so many people experience it and they don't know what's going on with it. So what was your experience with that?
I was not prepared for it because I was so new. I had not been in the sport enough to know what this was. I just really thought, what is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And because you got to think you're cracked out like a squirrel, from the experience and all the stimulants and, all the excitement and everything. And then you come home and you're exhausted most of the time from traveling, from all, all the things that have happened from prep. And I didn't recognize what it was until I really let it go a little further than it should, because I just thought, I just need to snap out of this, because I'm an incredibly disciplined person. And I think when I knew I was in trouble is I ate 12 cookies and didn't even realize they ate 12 cookies.
Oh, so you ate a full dozen and no reaction. Okay.
It was just like out of nowhere. And I was almost like I was hiding in the kitchen, hiding and eating cookies. And it wasn't about the cookies. It was just, I was unprepared for, what happens to your hunger hormones. I was unprepared for how it would feel to watch your body change. And, and you can tell yourself all the things that, this is for a particular period of time, that, you don't look like this, all year round. This is, a short window. But I was just so unprepared for it, and unprepared for how I would feel just emotionally. I just was not. I think that was the scariest thing for me, because I felt like something was wrong with me, that it was only me who felt that way. And that was something that I made sure this time that I had some systems in place and expected some things, so that it would be a little bit softer landing this time. And I was kinder to myself this time, with the understanding of this is normal. Whether people talk about it or not, it's normal. Now, there are different degrees of it, but.
So what were some things specifically that you took, or what steps that you took to deal with that? What have you found to be the most effective treatment, if you want to say, for post-show blues, personally?
Taking a week to myself. Not feeling like I have to respond to everyone immediately. Not feeling like I need to go immediately back to work the first few days like that. to be able to allow myself to center, to go out into the woods, to spend some time with prayer, to spend some time reading scripture, some quiet time. When I trained, I was training at off times, like early in the morning, times when I would see no one, not because I didn't want to see people, but I knew that I needed quiet. I needed silence. I needed stillness. I needed to know what was me, what was my inner voice, and what was the input from everyone else, especially this time, because as soon as I stepped off stage, it's immediately, what's next? What are you going to do? Are you going to get that Olympia qual? What are you going to do? And people press you that have no investment in you. And they don't pay your bills. They have no investment in you whatsoever, professionally or personally. And then I set some things up with my family. My family helped me with some things. Coming home to a clean house.
Oh, that's nice.
A big deal, but it's things that you can do that give you peace. For me, I just needed quiet. I needed some time away to spend some time with my dog and my family, and to just be still and really find my center again, find what made me love this again, why I do this, what my motivations are, and just not feel pressured to immediately jump back into training mode, working mode, social media, all that stuff,
Okay. Speaking of which, you had mentioned when we were talking just before we went live, as far as the whole influencer thing. It's like you've got people who it's like we were talking about, it's like you go to a gym and it's like there's so many cameras with so many lights. It looks like you didn't even go to a gym. It's like you went into a recording studio. But that's not been your experience.
No, you don't see any of that here. And I really, for a little bit, I thought that that was a hindrance to me, because there aren't people filming content here, and there actually are no content creators here. There's no one within a 4-hour drive that will film content here. So we're in the
okay.
We're that far out. And our gym is just that the culture is not like that. The gym owner doesn't care if you're a pro bodybuilder, if you're Mr. Universe, who you are. You respect the gym same as everyone else, So this is not our culture. I train utterly alone. I have some great friends there that if I feel like I'm at risk of passing out or dying, will keep me safe. But that's not the culture here, and I really am thankful for it, because it's given me peace throughout prep. I haven't felt the pressure, of constantly being in someone's camera shot when I'm trying to train. But I do understand that this is part of professional bodybuilding. This is what you sign up for when you decide to compete on a professional level. And it's part of it. It's just very not part of my world in any capacity. So
there are probably a lot of bodybuilders who are envious of you right now. Hearing that very idea, it's like, why can't I have that? Because of the gym that they're at.
Like, it's thrilling. People have no concept here, whether you're a professional bodybuilder or an amateur bodybuilder. It means nothing to anyone here, and that's wonderful. There's no pressure. I can just go in and train and enjoy the day. It's not the culture here. And I hope it never is, to be honest with you, because the day that I stop loving to train, that's the day I hang up my suit, when I don't enjoy training anymore, for me.
What do you think, just to switch gears a bit, now a lot of things have been said about the division itself, about where it is, where it's going, things that could be improved, things that need work, and such like that. Like, for instance, money is a big thing, like we were talking about before. Not just money to get ready for a show, but it's also the lack of prize money, even if you do win. I mean, it's like I've seen people like the Swansons, Autumn Swanson, and I can't remember her husband's name, but they just posted a video about their expenses. Just getting to a show. And Autumn said, I'm getting more and more anxious as we're describing this, because I don't think most people outside of the fan base understand exactly how expensive this
Well,
is.
I didn't. I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
know the
like,
difference between the amateur costs and professional costs. I had no difference. But do I think there needs to be more money in the sport? Absolutely. But you have to look at it from the promoter side and from the other side too. This is a business. They have to make money. If women are not selling tickets, then there needs to be a change in how we are marketed and how we market ourselves. Maybe the type of sponsors we go for. It's not so simple as just saying, give us more money, because we have to be honest. This is a business at the end of the day. This is not charity. So there needs to be a shift in some way with people who are above my pay grade with how we promote these shows to make people more excited to see women, like in our division, and I think it needs to be in a way that is not fetishized, because I don't think that really is going to benefit us financially. I think it needs to be a change in the way we're marketed, because if you win a show, most of the time you barely cover your travel expenses at the smaller shows. I mean, a lot of these shows are $2,000 for the Clash for first place. That's
peanuts,
nothing. That's a
basically.
drop in the
Yeah.
bucket, for it. But I do see both sides. So I'm not one of those one of the pros that are just like, give us more money. I understand there needs to be a change. We need to be able to draw people in that want to see us, that are excited to see these shows. So there's got to be a shift in the way that we're marketed. So that's a complicated thing. As far as the division, you're seeing natural progression. You're seeing women who are more muscular now, and that's just part of the natural progression of the sport. I think in all divisions, but it is a little murky sometimes, the division between women's physique and bodybuilding. That's a little murky, and it seems to be difficult.
Yeah. Because that's like one of the perennial criticisms of it, is that you've got written criteria over an NPC News Online of what you're not supposed to be. And it's like the first words are ripped, pre-peeled, striated.
Yeah.
And you look at that and it's like, that pretty much describes the top 5
Yeah.
at the WPD Olympia. And it's like, it just seems like they're rewarding what they say they don't want.
I don't know, but I love it though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm for it.
Do you see that as something, one of the contributing factors of that, or is it?
I do, but I do see that, like I said, that comes with the evolution of the sport. At some point they are going to have to sit down and decide, what are we going to reward? But I do think that's why you need to. We're so passionate about the Olympia, because I feel like when they choose a Miss Olympia, that she should be the standard for the next season. So I think they are kind of saying, when you choose Sarah, this is what we want. This is the standard. And you're talking to humans too. They have to judge based on what's there. Who is the closest at that particular show? So, if that person is more conditioned than the criteria allows, but they're the closest to the standard, it's very subjective there. But I'm a fan of the ultra conditioned. The top girls in the Olympia. I'm a huge fan of the look. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm for it.
It's like I've found over the years that I've got a very high tolerance level of muscularity on a woman, but it's like I'm just one person, so it's like I know what I like to see as a fan, but if change is needed in another direction so that the division benefits, fine.
Oh, I agree.
It's like by all means do it, because I'd rather the division survive and thrive
absolutely
than just cater to a few. So
yeah,
I guess the last subject I wanted to talk about was the Clash show, the lead up to it, the actual show, and what you've taken away from it. Because then it's like, when did you decide that you were going to do the Clash?
I started working with Andrew Vu, I think maybe a year and a half ago. Not shortly after the winning my pro card. So I really gave it to him as far as determining when he felt I was ready, because that was the whole reason of working with him, is he had the experience on the pro level that I didn't. And I really gave him the keys, so to speak, and let him decide when he felt it was time, and then he was like, here's a few shows, pick from a few shows and let's go. So it wasn't so much that I was trying to find a show at the end of the season or trying to pick a smaller show or a bigger show, whatever. It was just I trusted his knowledge, of when he felt like I was ready, and we just went for it. So it really wasn't like this person's doing this show. None of that was in consideration whatsoever. It was just, when do you think that I'm ready as a package?
Okay, so when the time is right.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you find out that one of the very best in the world, and probably going to go down as one of the, as far as I'm concerned, is going to go down as one of the greatest of all time in women's physique, that Natalia Abraham Coelho throws her hat in the ring. Did that cause any butterflies?
A lot of people were really upset, but this is professional bodybuilding. Like, this is her job. Like, this is what he does. Like, how do you get mad at someone for competing?
Right.
What the motivations were, I don't know. It's none of my business to know. And then I found out that Kali was doing the show, and I was so excited to meet her. And because I'm a fan of bodybuilding, I think that's something that a lot of the other girls were kind of confused to understand, that I am just a fan of bodybuilding as well, and not just a competitor. I was so excited to meet these women. And you can think about it two ways. Do you want to do a show where you easily win and then you go to the Olympia and you're last? You're going to compete against her anyway. What an honor it was to stand on stage, your first pro show.
Right, your debut.
With Miss Olympia, and then Kali, who was amazing. And then there were so many amazing girls there. But think about it. I compared it to like a dude doing his first open show with Ronnie Coleman. Think about it. Think about that experience and what an honor it was to stand up next to her and to not be out of place. You know what I mean? Because I had like I said, I had no point of comparison. I never stood by a pro. I had no idea what I compared, if I was going to be Tiny Tim or Big George. I had no comparison, because social media just is not real. When you look at pictures on social media, you can't rely on that. So, but to stand on stage with her, and to not just stand on stage, but to see her poise, I felt like I learned from her. I felt like a student. She's so incredibly poised on stage. She doesn't break a sweat. She doesn't look like she's even trying. It's just effortless. So it was like a masterclass for me, as a fan, as an athlete. But to stand up and not be out of place with her, I cried when I came backstage, and one of the girls hugged me and she was like, "You did great." And I was like, "I know, I'm excited." I'm not upset at all, because everyone in that first call, all these women were incredible women. But to stand on stage with Miss Olympia on your first pro show, who does that? Like, who does that? That was so cool.
And places top 3 with her.
Yeah,
which was what the talk was. It's like, you did so good, you're in the top 3 with her, and so it's like you're not near the end of the pack, you're up there with her. And so people are talking about that.
The majority of the feedback was just confidence, because I'd never been on a pro stage. I had no experience, standing there. So this was very new. It was new to me. Everything was, but what an experience. And I hope the other girls know what a treasure that it was to just share the stage with them, because I'm a fan at the core of my heart of bodybuilding and of these women. And I don't have it in me to have the nasty competitiveness, because if I have to be nasty to beat you, then there's a problem. That's not me. I'm a fan. But to see Natalia, she's a true professional.
Absolutely.
What you want about her, but when you see her on stage, she, you can see why she was Miss Olympia. She's incredible.
Yeah. And on top of that, forced to be reckoned with, because she won that, 2022 to 2023, pro win after pro win after pro win outside of the Olympia. I mean, she was unstoppable during that time. So it's like, and then it's like, I agree with you. It's like I hear the criticisms of her about her going to shows, and I'm like, guys, they did away with the point system, so now you have to win a show. I think she knows that every single time she wins a show,
Absolutely.
that's one more person she has, one less person she's got to worry about at the Olympiad. So if you've got a situation that A, you're not breaking any rules, and B, it gives you a strategic advantage over your competitive rivals, who's not going to take that?
But if you
Who would?
can't beat her, if you can't beat her now at a local show, what do you think you're going to do at the Olympia?
Right, exactly. It's
If
like you
you're
can't
mad,
take
just
her
get
now.
better. That's what
Yeah,
I'm going to do. I'm going to get better. So the next time I stand beside her, I want to be better. That's what competition is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring out excellence in one another.
sure.
If you're mad, then do better. Beat her next
Exactly.
time. Beat her because
Exactly. You
she's
want to
doing her
win?
job.
Right.
This is her job as a professional bodybuilder. She can do every show if she wants to. That's her decision to do. But like, if you're mad, just beat her.
Right, exactly. Work harder, train better, get better, basically. So,
Yeah.
but now, so did that. How about the lead off after the show? It's like it's now knowing what you know. Did the judges give you any feedback, and can you share that with us?
Confidence was a big thing because I really am. That's something I don't think people understand. You can practice posing all you want to in front of 3 old dudes in the gym, but like standing on a pro stage is a completely different experience. And I needed to. You have to compete to learn how to compete, and that's something
Mm-hmm.
I learned from powerlifting. You have to compete to learn what you're going to feel. So the next time you expect those feelings, and I'm going to be completely transparent because that's my decision with bodybuilding. No matter what it costs me, I'm going to be honest and transparent in my journey because I've met other women who have reached out to me privately saying that, thank you for saying this. I feel the same way, but nobody says it. Nobody's honest because everyone presents this image of perfection and everything. But like I said, I'd never stood by a pro. So I had no expectation of being first call out. None. Absolutely zero. I did not know. I'd never seen any of these girls before. No expectations. So when I was in first call out, I just let my adrenaline and excitement get out of control and really cost myself there, but like I said, you have to compete to learn how to compete. Next time I'll know what to expect and know how to manage those emotions a little bit better. But that was one of my biggest weaknesses there. That will not be a weakness next time. Absolutely not. A little bit more lat width, low lat width was something that we'll easily fix because I've got the number for that one now. And then core control, because like I said, when I let my adrenaline go nuts, my breathing was not managed the way that it should be. But those are things that are fixable. Those are things that can be fixed. So yeah, confidence and work on posing, those are things that that's what you would typically expect from someone's first time on a pro stage, so
Sure.
these are things that actually left me feeling very positive because it wasn't like you need a lot more size or you're too big for this division or, unbalanced or hair, makeup, none of that stuff. Everything was fine. But I just needed experience because I had no expectations of that show whatsoever other than praying that I was not last because I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So
Right. So now we have one more show coming up, the Atlantic City Pro. Natalia has said she's not done yet for the year. What about you? Is that something you're going to give a shot, or is it something you'd share?
Well, my situation is a little different than other people too because I am completely unsponsored. So I pay all of my bills, all of my expenses. So, and it's holiday time and I have 2 children. So I think it's more important for me to invest in giving them a great Christmas and Thanksgiving and spending time with them. And then I have to go back to work for next season, because my life is different than other people. So I have to go back to work in order to compete next year and start hustling to be able to do this, so it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
With the timing, you know what I mean? Not because, I have no issues competing against Natalia. I was honored. I'll compete against anyone. That's not that's not the thing. But for me, with it being holiday time, I just it didn't make sense to me for my family, because that's my thing. I will not take from my family to do what I love, so
Right.
that's why I do work and save and hustle and pay my own
Right.
way. But I know that's not the experience for everyone. And the reason why I'm transparent about that is because I know some people say that, bodybuilding is a privileged sport, and if you don't have all these things, then you shouldn't do it. I understand that and respect that. But then you have people who love this so much that they will find a way no matter what they have to do. And I want those women to know that it's possible, that you can do this. If you don't have sponsors, if you don't have all these things, you can do it, but you need to be honest with yourself and be prepared to work. That's it is. So I'm going to take some time and work, and once again, give Andrew the reins and let him tell me when he thinks the package is ready, because I don't pick shows and try to get ready for a show. I let him tell me when the package is ready, and then we look at what shows will be close by and what's reasonable.
Okay. So there's not like a favorite show that if you had the opportunity you would go to. It's just whatever they choose that your package is ready to be able to go to.
Yeah, because I think you start getting into, like, I'm going to this show because this girl's doing that one. I'm going to dodge her, and I think I can win this one. And that's fine, and that's great. But I want to bring a better package. When the judges see me again, I want them to be like, she listened when we told her last time. She listened to us. She made the changes. She did the work, and have a better package, instead of trying to rush something and saying, I'm going to do New York Pro regardless, and then not be ready. That's because conditioning is kind of the thing I want to be known for more than anything. I want to be prepared. I want to be conditioned and hard. And that's just something that means something to me. So I don't pick shows. I just want to make sure that I'm ready. And when the judges see me again, that they understand that I did take the feedback to heart and worked on it.
Okay. Well, there is one thing I wanted to share here, and I wanted to share this to everybody because I thought this was really nice. Let me see if I can show my technical expertise here. See if I can get this up here. And that is from Rachel Daniels. Can you see it? And I'll just read what she has to say. I'm so proud of this woman, not just a long-term posing client, but someone I now call friend and sister. This is the most humble girl I know and incredibly inspiring. She's already made her name in powerlifting and broken records in that industry. This was her pro debut, and she was up there with the best of the best and placed third. She didn't even know she did well until I told her when she got off stage. Posing was not easy for Tracy, and she really truly committed to her posing, and it was so incredible to see her look so effortless on stage with her movements. Congratulations, Tracy. I'm so proud of you, and I've never been more excited watching someone on stage. Her posing coach, that being the real Lois Lane, Rachel Daniels. So I wanted to share that with everybody because I think that says something, because it says when one of the very best, my humble opinion, one of the very best posers of all time. She's up there with the likes of Sheila Bleck, and for those who really go far back, Diana Dennis, as being one of the very best posers of all time. To give you praise like that, I think that's wonderful. And at your pro debut, no less. So I think your future, personally, I think your future is very bright in this division. I think you're approaching it, my humble opinion, exactly the right way. You're not letting things get to you. You're sticking with what you know. And I think that's wonderful for you.
I can't say enough about Rachel, though, because she is one of the best posers of our generation, but that doesn't always translate to a good coach. People who are gifted aren't always gifted teachers, but she is able to, she can teach me, she can teach anyone. The level of patience that she's had with me and the intuitiveness to know how and when to push me. She's a wonderful, wonderful coach. Like, I cannot recommend her enough. And that's not just because she's one of my dearest friends, but she's absolutely a gifted coach and has a coach's heart and genuinely cares about how her clients do, how they succeed, how they feel about themselves in the process. And I can't say enough about Rachel. Like if you're from, no matter what your skill level is, if she does Miss Olympia, the Andrea Shaw's routines. So she does people like that. And then she did my routines, who didn't know what a mandatory was from anything. So I can't say enough about Rachel, and hit her up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being, you've been a great interview guest. I started this because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more from other people. It's like I've followed this for a long time, followed this for over 4 decades, going on over 4 decades now, but it all comes down to listening to what you ladies have to say and learning from what you talk about from your competitive experience and just going from there. Because I'm just as much a fan. I've been a fan of this for so long now because I found it fascinating back in 1984 and find it fascinating today in 2024. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick before I close this out. Lord of the Rings fan?
Huge.
I saw that you had made a blurb about wanting to watch all 6 movies,
Huge.
the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies back to back.
I'm a fantasy fan, so Game of Thrones, but Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge Tolkien nerd, so like.
Read the books or just concentrated on the movies?
Oh, come on. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. I'm a true fan. So that's one of my favorite things to do.
When did you start reading them? Or when did you first read them?
Gosh, it's been a long
time. Long time. Yeah, same here. So went back when I was a kid, back in the 70s. So long time for me, but I fell in love with them too. And then when I found out the movies were coming out, it was like, please do them right. Please give them justice. Because fantasy at the time, it's like the movies that were coming out were stupid. Yes. And I was like, please don't turn it into that. And when the first one came out, I was like, they got it. Home run. They did so well. So as that, are there any other fellow Tolkien fans where you live? Or is that just something that, like, have you ever had a Tolkien night where just people get together to watch the movies? Or
honestly, that's something that my family, we're so different. Like I said, my daughter's in drama and academic team. My son is in computers and, computer nerd. And, we're all so different, but it's something that we all have in common, just the love for Tolkien and for Lord of the Rings. So it's something that's kind of united us all together. And I just think that's like a precious thing when you have something like that in common, when we're all so different and are interested in so many different things. It's just something that unites us all. We're all down for a good marathon anytime, anywhere.
Right. That's my family in the original Star Wars trilogy, because we saw that when they came out in the theaters, and we didn't know it was going to blow up to become the thing that it was. So, well, thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate you're willing to be here, and for everybody, this is my first of what I hope to be many interviews here on the Art of Human Muscle podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have the great rest of the week. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Had a good time.